Okay, this is part 2 concerning KOINE University. We discussed the fact that university is obviously about unity as opposed to division, diversity, and that works in opposite directions. So just as an illustration of what it is and what it looks like, the first video was basically saying what is KOINE University, and of course I remind you it's an achievement. This is not brick and mortar. This is not a school. This is definitely not a seminary. That's a very intensive, interactive, collaborative learning process that actually matures and grows a student by being around, as you will, being among and interacting with pastors and teachers who are very seasoned. So this, for example, let's take the upper construct limit, the lower construct limit, and let's take this KOINE average down here in the middle. Let's go back and talk about these extremes for a moment. And at times things can grow so far apart that when I say extreme, I mean extreme when we contrast them. For example, let's take the scandal of free will among religion. The scandal being that so much has been written about it, but not very much progress has been made. So let's say you are libertarian, and I'm referring to the libertarian free will tradition and philosophy, not the libertarian political particular party, that is. So let's say you practice libertarianism. I love those isms. We've got plenty of those. Or let's say down here you're the compatibilism. This would be something that we would know from David Hume. Let's say he's an atheistic philosopher. I don't know what his atheism has to do with his thinking, but let's just say that. So you can see these two are quite far apart, and it definitely skews understanding of, in reference, let's say, to the Bible or to any understanding of man, whether it come from an independent from the Bible view or from a view of the Bible. But in university, we would find ourselves asking, well, once we go outside the Bible and learn this, and once we go outside the Bible and learn that, we really haven't gained any knowledge of what the Bible or even what a person might mean when they say this. In my research for papers I love to write, I found that people would assert this not knowing that they mean libertarianism, neither knowing they mean compatibilism, nor necessarily knowing either one of these even exist, and certainly not knowing what they are asserting, rather only what they mean when they say it. And I teach this lesson of my own free will, and I always do that as a pun to show that the phrase itself is not the problem. It's what do we mean and intend when we say it. But by what we mean and intend when we say something like this, it doesn't resolve the matter of just exactly what does the Bible say, because we all know, we've heard people say the Bible teaches free will, or the Bible doesn't teach it, and neither have said anything necessarily that could help us understand what does the Bible teach. Well, just simply stated then, first of all, in university, we won't find ourselves at odds with each other over an expression called free will. We won't find ourselves dishonestly representing the fact that until we studied this or until we studied this, we could not have known either what we were referring to. In actuality, we were never referring to either one of these initially until we learned of these, and then of course we picked or selected or chose by our own free will which one of these we want to mean in the future, or which one of these we want to defend. And you can see the total contradiction logically because then we would never know which free will we exercised in choosing our particular or our preferred form of free will. So it becomes very fun if you are practicing university and you adhere to a common text and common expression. If you have a spirit of Christ, a disposition inclined toward learning and engaging another person honorably and honestly. So this is where university comes in, because the Bible actually teaches agent causation, and that's not because I just simply said and asserted that. It's because there's an entire language called Hebrew, which the author of the Bible chose that language of his own free will. And by that statement, I could never know what I meant, because I could never impose upon the author of Scripture what I mean by this, nor could I ascribe to him and speak for him about that which I could never know. He chose Hebrew, the Hebrew language. And in the Hebrew language, we have causative stems. And we know this, we can look that up. And basically, the Hebrew language, the Bible, just tells us quite plainly and statedly that causation, first of all, that's actual and expressed in the language called Hiphil. It's Hiphil and Hophal stems, two states, two stems. My goodness, it occurs over and over and over throughout. There's text with reference to believe, where it says where people are commanded to you cause, and of course you to believe. So that agent causation is there. And yes, that God is a causative agent. We are causative agents. That's not an opinion. I would rather have studied libertarianism, compatibilism, and then of my own free will, of which I would never have been aware, chose one of the two to be the free will doctrine that I would later assert, never knowing why, of course. Because then I could be out there in a very large, pointless conversation, as even philosophy itself is now saying. They are recognizing the scandal of free will in philosophy, because they continue to have written for hundreds of years and made very little progress. That's by their own assertion. However, in the book, The Scandal of Free Will, they have many more resources available for your consideration. So the market of promoting an abstract, undefined product continues to ever expand. But in university, we are honest. We know that there's no way we could know this. And there's my phone, this very high-tech piece of equipment that interfered with my video. But I won't cast aside the work, because I did something as silly as not, as we would call it, silence my phone. So agent causation is there. Aristotle, a philosopher, was quoted as having said agent causation is the oldest form of free will, which the only error in his comment would be to suggest that something that antedates or precedes any such expression of free will would somehow then be capable of being assimilated into the conversation today. So yes, the Bible teaches us agent causation. It doesn't satisfy the extremes of libertarian free will tradition and philosophy or compatibilism. But in university, even the libertarian would admit, yes, Hebrew teaches this, and even the compatibilists, whether they're Calvinist or whatever they call themselves, or an Arminians, whatever that is. Arminianism is ever changing and adapting. Calvinism is ever changing and adapting. There's hyper, high, moderate, low Calvinism. There's particular points of Calvinism. Some people are one-pointer, two-pointer, no-pointer, three-pointer. Whatever all that is, it's definitely not considering a text that has any authority. This is already settled. People would like for us to assume that it's not settled and it engages some pointless argumentation. But university doesn't know anything about that. Diversity takes people and always in the direction of further and further apart. But actual study never occurs in this university, which this lesson speaks, is never realized. So that'll help understand what KOINE University is about, especially this part 2. So you enjoy this video.